not playing games. We have people coming in by the millions, as you know, and a lot of people shouldn't be here. Most of them shouldn't be here, but we have jails being emptied into our country. We have mental institutions from all over the world being emptied into our country. So
big expectations of large migrant groups entering the southern border before President-elect Donald Trump takes office. But what has the reality been in Texas during the last 5 months?
Definitely it got slower than last year. Sometimes no one in our facility. We don't receive anyone. And sometimes we receive up to 100 daily, but it's nothing in comparison with last year.
How are those who work with migrants preparing for what is to come?
A lot of times we don't know where these people are really coming from, and we're not really knowing if they're here actually giving you the right information. So that's our job to try to determine that.
I'm Yami Virgin in San Antonio, Texas, for another edition of Immigration Crisis, the fight for the southern border. About 200 to 300 migrants is the average number of migrants who are crossing the border in the Del Rio area of operation. And the story is similar all over Texas. The number of people crossing has gone down significantly since President Biden signed an executive order back in June. Biden announced then that new executive order would be aimed at securing the southern border, barring migrants who cross unlawfully from receiving asylum. The measures, which take place during periods of high border encounters, are designed to streamline the removal of individuals without a lawful basis to remain and ease the workload on Border Patrol agents. So what exactly does that mean? It means the limitations are to be discontinued 2 weeks after there has been an average of less than 1,500 migrant encounters between official ports of entry for 7 consecutive days. The restrictions would resume when there has been an average of 2,500 encounters or more for 7 consecutive days.
This action is a better way. It doesn't tear families apart, while requiring every undocumented spouse to fulfill their obligations under the law.
Under the plan, Biden issued a proclamation suspending the entry of non-citizens who unlawfully cross the southern border in accordance with the Immigration and Nationality Act. This is paired with an interim final rule from the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security that limits asylum for such individuals. Now, the restrictions will include exceptions for unaccompanied children and victims of trafficking, mirroring provisions in a bipartisan Senate border agreement. The actions aren't forever and will be discontinued when migration levels decrease to manageable levels. So what has DPS been encountering here in Texas? According to DPS Sergeant Renee Cordova, it's a different world. Are you starting to see bigger groups? When are you seeing them? What are you seeing?
It just depends on the days that they cross. It varies. Like last week, we had one group, and they went for a couple of days, and of course we got hit today. But the majority of these groups are at least 100 plus every time they cross, and sometimes they're at up to 200.
How many did you have today?
130.
And what happened with that group?
Approximately 29 of them were criminally trespassed. They were filed on here in Texas for trespassing on these properties, and then 101 were turned over to U.S. Border Patrol.
Okay. Safe to say 101 were family units?
That is correct. And then, of course, there was a couple of unaccompanied children between the ages of 13 to 15 years of age. And, of course, they had a couple of small children, maybe 4 or 5 years old.
Without an adult?
Yes.
All right. Talk to me about crossing through here. So what's the difference crossing through here than through another area?
Well, the reason they probably cross through here is because there is no fence here. As you know, the fence enhances their way of crossing, and it makes it a little bit harder. It makes it much harder. in order for them to cross in these areas. And they know exactly, because they're getting help from the cartels and the coyotes. They know exactly where we don't have fences. So they exploit those areas. And this happens to be one of the areas that they're exploiting.
For people right now that are talking about the border, I mean, this is pretty calm. This is not like we've seen it in the past, right?
No, but it's starting to pick up a little bit more. I believe the closer we get to the election, it's starting to pick up a little bit more. It was a little bit slow during the summertime, but it's starting to ramp up a little bit. And the groups they're very large size.
Where are most of them coming from?
A lot of them are Dominican Republic, Honduras. We've had people from Brazil. We've had them from Vietnam. And of course, in other groups, we've caught a special interest from different countries that are in the Middle East.
What about Venezuelans? What are we seeing right now with the mess that they have after their elections?
We are starting to see some of them. We don't know exactly where they're crossing at. Probably a little bit further, closer to California, probably. And but right now we're getting very few of those. But they are still coming in the groups.
Not like before?
No, not like hundreds and thousands of them.
Oh, God. Okay. Talk to me about the razor wire. So up until where do you guys have it? Is there more that's going to be put out? Is it helping?
Yes, it is. It is helping. We have it up to, as you can see, if you've ever been to Shelby Park, that is infiltrated with not necessarily razor wire, but it's with sea wire, because there's two differences between the both. The razor wire is the one that you mostly see in prisons, and the sea wire is a little bit smaller. Of course, it catches your clothes and stuff like that, but the razor wire is a little bit more sharper and stuff.
Shelby Park, you guys still have control over the park.
That is correct.
And any changes coming to that?
Not that we know of. Right now, we are still manning. It is still closed down. We are still in control in case we get an influx of bodies that may attempt to try to cross through there, and we are prepared.
Tren de Aragua. I mean, we were already seeing this a year ago before national media. Oh my God, what's going on? Everybody woke up. Talk to me about the way that you guys are dealing with Tren de Aragua. We were out Saturday on that raid that happened in San Antonio. We were the only ones there.
Yes.
Got to see everything and what was being pulled out of these apartments. So with that in mind of how dangerous they are, have you guys changed the way you also deal with people not knowing who they are when they're coming through?
A lot of times we're educating ourselves with our agents in Austin. They're educating us more because they're more advanced with the transnational gangs, as well as keeping a lookout for their tattoos and just asking a lot of questions, like as if we would on a traffic stop. You have to ask a lot of questions in order to find out who these people really are, because we really don't know. A lot of times we don't know where these people are really coming from, and we're not really knowing if they're actually giving you the right information. So that's our job, to try to determine that, to try to find out, to see if they are more from Venezuela. We'll put a little bit more attention to them, due to the fact that the governor is starting to crack down on the Venezuelan gangs, the Tren de Aragua.
I mean, is there something different since he declared them a transnational criminal organization? Are you guys doing anything different because of that?
Well, the thing is we're trying to be more vigilant, trying to educate more officers about it, because of course they'll change their tactics in reference to trying to find out who they are, but we already know more rarely who these people are and how dangerous they are.
Let me ask you, as you're seeing all the madness going on everywhere else, you guys know that they more than likely cross through here. How much more important does it make it what you guys are doing right now?
It makes it a big difference of what we're doing. Of course, there's areas that we're starting to get a little bit more access to. We're trying to actually find exactly where they're moving to, and we're trying to stay right behind them in order to actually get them away from this county. And we're not allowing them to cross. But of course, when there's a will, there's a way. They're going to try to find a way they're that desperate in order to try to get here into this county. This is one of the easiest areas for them to cross. And for the simple facts is because it's a little bit different than the valley. Because in the valley, the cartels battle a lot. and they don't like to cross through there. So this is one of the easier areas for them to cross. And we're still trying to stay behind them and in different areas where we're trying to keep an eye on them, because there's places where there's criminal trespass and there's no areas, and so they exploit a lot of these areas. And but the ones we do have criminal trespass, we are enforcing the law to the full extent, and we are taking them to jail.
A lot of help from Mexico also, right?
Absolutely.
Right now?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think people understand that you guys literally are in constant contact with your counterparts in Mexico.
Yes. They also have good relationships with Mexico, and whenever we need assistance, they're there to help us as well.
The terrorist angle, you guys have gotten some guys. I mean,
yeah, we've pretty much we're starting to look at these terrorist areas, these special interests. That's been a new trend now, and we're starting to pay more attention to these people, checking their passports and all kinds of different things, and we get them doing criminal checks on them, and some of them have come back as on the terrorist watch list.
How does that make you feel when you are able to get them?
It makes us feel like we're doing our job, and we're doing the job that we're designed for. And this is a different type of work for us, but we're doing the best that we can, and we've been very successful. A lot of troopers have been very successful here along the border in trying to determine these people trying to cross over.
The low numbers are a quick rest for Mission Border Hope in Eagle Pass, Texas, which is the migrant shelter where Border Patrol drops off migrants who are paroled into the U.S. Valeria Wheeler is the executive director. How has it been looking the last few months?
It's lower. Definitely it got slower than last year. Right now we're serving maybe sometimes no one in our facility. We don't receive anyone, and sometimes we receive up to 100 daily, but it's nothing in comparison with last year.
How are you guys? I mean, is this like a breather, and what are they telling you, to expect more people with the election?
Well, we don't know. This never has been a constant thing. It's always surprising with numbers when we get more people, and also last year several times and during different months we got no one also last year, but arrivals decreased.
Okay. Are you expecting an influx? I mean, everybody's talking about the election.
Yeah.
Are you expecting an influx?
Yeah, well, we think maybe it will be something that they will prepare to come before election. We don't know if that will happen, but we're prepared.
Okay. Valeria, I know when we talked before, you're seeing all the stuff with Tren de Aragua.
Mm-hmm.
I know when you and I talked before, you said you had noticed a difference.
Yeah.
All the stuff that's going on in the rest of the country,
Mm-hmm.
we know some of those people had to have gone through here.
Mm-hmm.
So how lucky are you feeling that you didn't have any major incidents here in Eagle Pass in your facility?
We are very happy that things were very organized and calm when we were serving thousands of asylum seekers every week. We've never had any violent situation in our place. I think our staff has been very, I don't know, they've been very supportive, so they never made people feel bad. That's why maybe we didn't get any violent situations, but definitely I'm happy that nothing happened during those months. And unfortunately, things have happened in other places, but we are just, that's why we got measures at that time. We had 24/7 security guards, we have a fence, we have security cameras, and maybe that's why we didn't have any incidents.
How is it in Mexico? Because you do go back and forth. Do you think what's being done by the Mexican government's also helping to slow it down? How's Piedras right now?
It's a huge difference between last year and this year. There's no many immigrants in the streets in Piedras Negras. You don't see that many people trying to cross the border right now, and you don't see them in Piedras, in the Mexican border or in the interior. Last year we were seeing people walking from Monterrey to Piedras Negras all the time. Like you can see hundreds of people walking in the distance between Monterrey and Piedras Negras, which is maybe 500 kilometers. So it was very shocking to see that last year. This year is not like that. You don't see people sleeping on the streets. You don't see people coming, walking in the highways. So it's a huge difference.
So what do you guys do when it's low, like it is now? What else do you guys do?
Everything that we didn't have time to do last year. We are working in our administrative stuff. We are working in our reports. We are still supporting people. We're still receiving people in our facility, but Mission Border Hope has other ministries. So now we have more time to focus in the community, but there's still people crossing. Even though they're not crossing, or there's no many people that it's being detained by Border Patrol, there's a lot more people trying to cross in the port of entry through CBP-1, which is great.
And the state of Texas is also preparing to help the incoming administration by donating some land. About 3 weeks ago, the Texas Land Commissioner, Don Buckingham, donated 1,400 acres in the valley to the incoming administration. My colleague Matt Roy filed this report during the announcement from Rio Grande City.
We are just outside the 1,400-acre plot of land that the state of Texas is offering to the Trump administration. It's mainly farmland used to grow canola, sunflowers, onions, and other things like that. But after the land was acquired by the state late in October, Texas Land Commissioner Don Buckingham said they would continue operating the farm, but also would add another 1.45 miles of border wall on this land because it does butt right up to the Rio Grande River. But take a look at this. We saw trucks carrying sections of border wall coming in and out of the property today. We also saw some cement trucks, other construction workers, and several Border Patrol vehicles entering and exiting as the construction of this border wall continues. According to the letter that Buckingham sent to Trump's team, she says that she and her team are prepared to work with the federal government to, quote, allow a facility to be built for the processing, detention, and coordination of the largest deportation of violent criminals in the nation's history. Now, there are still some things we don't know, like who owned this land previously and what it was purchased for. To that end, we did contact the Starr County judge and clerk today, but both were unavailable to comment. One thing is for sure, though, the race to secure the southern border seems to have already started even before the president-elect gets back into the Oval Office. Reporting in Rio Grande City, I'm Matt Roy.
And then on Monday, border czar Tom Homan, in a very public way, accepted the land from the land commissioner during the Dr. Phil show, as Matt explains.
Less than 3 weeks after Texas Land Commissioner Don Buckingham offered the incoming Trump administration 1,400 acres of land in Starr County to aid their mass deportation efforts, incoming border czar Tom Homan revealed on the Dr. Phil show that he will certainly be taking Buckingham up on her offer.
Yeah. Is there a plan to utilize that?
I'm writing the plan as we speak. I was working on it last night, matter of fact.
Homan intends to use the land for a migrant detention center, a place to hold migrants who are in the country illegally until they're deported.
They'll be moving in now. One day we have a flight to the El Salvadoran nations. The next day we have a flight to Asia. So we've been moving through. But
Homan's comments further illustrating how serious Trump and his allies are about mass deportations once he retakes office. In a statement from the Trump-Vance transition team spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt, she said, on day one, President Trump will marshal every lever of power to secure the border, protect their communities, and launch the largest mass deportation operation of illegal immigrant criminals in history. Trinity political science professor Katsuya Nishikawa Chavez thinks the song and dance from Don Buckingham is all talk.
There's a lot of people, taking advantage of the media's interest and trying to grab some attention. And so what we see from the office of the land manager is something akin to political theater.
Professor Nishikawa Chavez is a Japanese Japanese and Mexican American whose grandparents were placed in internment camps during World War II. He says every time the country goes down these kinds of roads, it's always looked back with regret as a nation.
It's that situation that we've been here before. We've been ashamed of what we've done in the past, and here we go again.
In San Diego, California, on the 10th, the County Board of Supervisors voted 3-1 to restrict the use of county resources for federal immigration enforcement, citing the need to prioritize community trust and local concerns over federal immigration policies. The chairwoman of that board, Nora Vargas, who introduced the measure, said the policy aims to focus their local resources on the county's needs while protecting immigrant families. Quote, immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility, and our county will not be a tool for policies that hurt our residents, said Vargas. Now, the policy directs the chief administrative officer to report within 180 days data related to local transfers or notifications to federal immigration authorities over the past year, along with recommendations for implementing the new policy. Some who spoke during a public hearing said this will make San Diego, California, a super sanctuary city. Friends, that's all for this week. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Immigration Crisis, the fight for the southern border. I'm Yami Virgin for Sinclair Broadcasting in San Antonio, Texas. Until next time.